What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Star Wars Visions Volume 2, Season 2. Star Wars Visions is back on Disney+. 9 more episodes. The anthology series, non-canon animated series. Season 1 was a big surprise. Not that I wasn't hyped for it, but it was better than I could have ever expected. And, showing such a loving homage to anime and really Japanese culture through Star Wars storytelling was a lot of fun. And I think what made Star Wars Visions Season 1 so refreshing is that when you're not constricted by canon, especially a canon so specific and detailed as Star Wars, when you're not restricted by canon, the creators are free to just tell, I think, more inspired storytelling. It's an obvious thing, but Star Wars Visions really took that a step further by introducing like new ideas and new spins on Star Wars storytelling and Star Wars thinking. And that really just made me so excited about the prospect of more Star Wars Visions because it was actually willing to be bold and try things. That doesn't mean some things work as well as others. There's ups and downs with that approach, but it's just more inspired storytelling when you're doing something like this. And, I'm really happy that Lucasfilm was able to go ahead with another season. James Wog over at Lucasfilm, this is kind of his baby. And what's really cool about Season 2, Volume 2, which I didn't expect either, is that we've almost branched beyond the conceit of Season 1. Only one of the episodes in Season 2 was made by a Japanese studio. In fact, it's an American-owned one. This time around, were made by animation houses from all over the globe. And it's kind of taking like the next step in that kind of storytelling, that kind of approach, where now it's like specific cultures putting their own spin on Star Wars storytelling and like self-actualizing Star Wars within themselves, within their culture. And that is, I think, a really, again, awesome, inspired thing to do. If you think back on Season 1, I look back really fondly on the episode The Ninth Jedi, which was incredibly compelling, self-contained, of course, left you wanting more, but most importantly, introduced a new conceit to Star Wars, which was the idea that the lightsaber color was actually dictated by the wielder's attunement and connection to the Force. And on top of that, it was a really like fun twist in how that story was told. I think this time around, there are some interesting ideas along those lines, looking no further than Episode 1, titled Sith, where, it's like the Force is almost used as a way to be creative and make art. And I think that was really cool. What's really fun about Star Wars Visions Season 2 is the animation styles are a lot more varied as well. You have, traditional hand-drawn animation, 3D CGI, 2D art, claymation, very vast, very different. Again, really adds to everything. Really fun. I thought Episode 1 was a cool highlight for sure. Just really the way it popped. That was a very artistic presentation of Star Wars. The Sith design was very cool. Nice shout out to the Grievous wheel bike. Episode 2, Screecher's Reach, I also liked quite a bit. That's from Cartoon Saloon, the Irish studio. The Sith Ghost was quite spooky, but everything about that episode kind of lent itself to calling back to Dagobah and the cave and Empire Strikes Back. I enjoyed that one. The zoomed out shots of the landscapes were quite beautiful as well. Episode 3, that's from Punk Robot, the Chilean studio, the claymation style with the two sisters. That one was interesting. Episode 4 I thought was quite impressive. That was I Am Your Mother from Aardman, the British studio. That one's a bit cheeky, a bit fun. Low stakes for sure, but also just like kind of heartwarming and enjoyable. Not everything has to be super violent. That was a fun one though. My favorite episode of Season 2 would be Episode 5, Journey to the Dark Head. This was made by the Korean studio, Studio Mir, and this one has, even though it's Korean, it has like heavy anime vibes in terms of the dialogue and the voice acting styles, and kind of like Ninth Jedi, really brings you back to like this fully formed like world, right? This ongoing Jedi Sith war, Jedi Council, this character with prophetic visions, this young Jedi Padawan. That one I think is beautiful and stunning, and like just like the Ninth Jedi, it's like so engrossing to the viewer because like there's so much like wonder, the classic Star Wars wonder really present in like that story because it just feels like so fully realized as a world. And I really like the journey that those two characters go on. The Sith antagonist again is very spooky and compelling, and there's I think just some really epic moments. Like I think that's a clear highlight as one that's very easy to rewatch. Train to the Dark Head. Really liked it. I think the duel atop the speeder. Once they're approaching the heads, like that was pretty epic. The music in the cave when they're dueling is like almost like bebop-esque, cowboy bebop-esque in terms of like the horns and whatnot. When they dive out of the sky, those visuals, with the statues and like the sun shining down, just like a big vista shot, just really gorgeous. That kind of stuff, I think, it's like so many Star Wars trademarks, but also just really feels like its own thing. So beautiful. Episode 6 I liked a lot as well. This is from Studio La Cachette, the French studio. The Spy Dancer. This one is, I think, kind of cool style. I don't know how you call it. I think this is more of like a 2D art style, and I like how it progresses. Naturally, it's a story about family and stuff, and the combat in that short is fun. It's almost like the rhythmic, like dancing combat, kind of cool. Almost maybe takes you out of it if you're not willing to roll with it. But I thought it was pretty fun. I think my second favorite episode would be episode 7, The Bandits of Golak from 88 Pictures. This is a Indian studio, and this is probably the greatest example of all of a culture being represented via Star Wars storytelling. There's definitely a South Asian flair to the visuals, to the voice acting performances, to the just depiction of things in the background and stuff. Like it felt South Asian in an amazing way. And also I think it's gorgeous animation, probably the best looking short of all. And I think it was just really compelling too. This young brother trying to protect his Force sensitive sister from the Empire and from, falling into the wrong hands. And then the train sequence, the extended train sequence is pretty epic. Speeder bike chase from those rebels, like it looked like a Clone Wars episode, like the quality of the animation, And then we had the Inquisitor show up, and then we have the older Jedi in hiding, pulling out the lightsabers out of her cane, kind of reminded me of Tara Sinube from the Clone Wars, and having a lightsaber within something else, pretty epic. But what I really enjoy about Visions is like it does kind of like manage to make you feel or think about something in a very short runtime. These are all like 18 minutes, 12 minutes, or like in that range. They're short. They're vignettes by design, but I think they do a really good job of just kind of getting that point across. Episode 8, The Pit, which is the one that it's from the Japanese studio Dart Shitajo, but actually co-produced with Lucasfilm, interestingly enough. The only one that Lucasfilm was directly involved in creating. And this one definitely gives you some Dark Knight Rises vibes in terms of like this big pit, people trapped in it, guy climbs out to help everyone. And then if you compare this along to episode 9, the final episode, Ao's Song from Triggerfish, the African studio, both of these kind of lend themselves to like an environmental impact, right? Like the impact of, or environmental message, the impact of like strip mining and like taking natural resources away. Not an unfamiliar idea, of course, to Star Wars storytelling. Look no further than the Empire and how they operated during their time. But I think this was pretty compelling. The Pit, I think, is a really strong one. Really makes you feel, and one of the darker episodes as well in terms of dark themes, So overall, I think Vision Season 2 is just quite compelling for being an example of taking the next step with this kind of series. I wasn't necessarily sure if that's what this would be, and it had a lot to live up to. Because again, I thought Season 1 was so special with episodes like The Duel and Ninth Jedi and The Village Bride and The Elder. There are some true bangers, some true highlights. And at this point, I'm expecting them to make a season 3 of Volume 3 because this kind of anthology non-canon format is a great way to get hours logged on Disney Plus, make Star Wars content, but this doesn't feel like saturation, right? Because it's non-canon. This is allowed to just be what it is and will be liked for that. This doesn't take away from anything else. It's purely additive, but also so inspired and sometimes heartwarming, sometimes really exciting. And this is the kind of thing that you should want from non-canon storytelling. That's why I'm so disappointed still with Marvel's What If, which just played it so incredibly safe and answered the question, what if, as little as humanly possible. It's like barely, like little minor things. Visions is truly a what if thing when it comes to, going outside the canon box. So I'm a huge fan of Visions. Let me know, how did you feel about Visions Volume 2? Did you like it more or less than Volume 1? What was your favorite individual episode of Volume 2? And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.